tradition for the first sermon of the year, where we acknowledge those who have transitioned from this life in the previous year. It began with Reverend Ron Hersom maybe 7 or 8 years ago. It's no surprise that he asked longtime UUCJ member Donna Janesky to join him after a year or two, or that Donna gracefully continued the tradition after Reverend Hersom left UUCJ. Donna spent over 40 years working in the nursing field in every role you can imagine, from patient care to training to executive director roles. Much of this time was spent in long-term care, acute care, and hospice. She is familiar with the transition from life to whatever happens next, and has led workshops both at UUCJ and at the Southern Unitarian Universalist Summer Institute on aging and death. Those of you who know Donna know that she also has a zest for life and lovingly tends to her amazing garden, her friendly chickens, and to her relationships with her friends and church community. Many of you have been befriended, mentored, or supported by Donna, and I'm so glad that all of us have the opportunity to hear from her today.
Good morning, everyone. Well, here we are once again. I'm going to put this away. It's hard to believe that a whole year has passed since I did this annual sermon. And now it does seem annual. As Katie said, I've done it for several times. And I always say, this is going to be the last time I'm doing this. And then they ask me again, and then I say yes. And so, together, we will take a look back at 2019. We're going to look at our losses and hopefully our gains and reflect upon how we can make 2020 a better year for all of us, our church community, our city, our country, and our world. We began 2019 with a government shutdown as President Trump entered his third year in office. The Me Too movement continued throughout the year to identify abusers from many venues. In February, the Patriots won the Super Bowl, and March brought the Mueller investigation looking at Russian interference with our elections. In April, we grieved for those killed in a mass synagogue shooting and were surprised by a college admission cheating scandal. 4 major mass shootings occurred in May. There was an increase in homelessness in Los Angeles in June, along with more mass shootings and violent protests. July saw Trump's wall funded, and the U.S. women's soccer team wins the World Cup, but also more shootings. Immigration restrictions continue. In August, Jeffrey Epstein was found dead, and we experienced our first vaping deaths, as well as 5 more mass shootings. The opioid epidemic continued to grow, and in September, Trump's call to Ukraine was released, and we saw 2 Category 5 hurricanes, Lorenzo and Dorian, which blasted the Bahamas. In October, Simone Biles broke the record with 21 Olympic medals. James Holtzbauer won $250,000 on Jeopardy, and there were 5 more mass shootings and uncontrollable fires in California. November was filled with the impeachment probe and 3 mass shootings, and finally in December, the impeachment charges against Trump were passed. We also watched the ups and downs of Britain's possible exit from the EU, and Prince Archie was welcomed into the world while Prince Andrew was ostracized. There were many protests in Hong Kong, France, India, Indonesia, Venezuela. North Korea launched a short-range missile. Notre Dame Cathedral was severely damaged in a fire, and Venice flooded. We watched a record number of candidates throw their hats in the ring for the Democratic presidential nomination in preparation for the election this November. Tiger Woods came back to win the Masters, and throughout the year we experienced the many repercussions of global warming, with fires, hurricanes, and floods, while listening to opposing rhetoric. I hope you were as uncomfortable as I was about the mass shootings reported. The total number of mass shootings in the United States was 385. 1,486 people were injured and 441 died, making a total of 1,907 victims. Overall, there were 35,943 gun deaths in the United States. Certainly, the list of major events for 2019 may give us pause for concern when the only good news relates to sporting events and a game show. But here's another good one. In December, Greta Thunberg, the Swedish climate crisis activist, was named Time Magazine's Person of the Year, and at 16, she is the youngest person to be so honored. Locally, yes, Jyoti, we know. Locally, we said goodbye to the Jacksonville landing and watched the downtown area grow with $1 billion in projects under construction and $3 billion proposed projects. And then there's this JEA thing, and I won't say any more about that. Our church community experienced trauma and unrest when our minister and DRE abruptly resigned. The bright news is that our church community welcomed Reverend Roberta and Reverend Marty, and with their guidance began a healing journey that will extend through 2020. Last year, I mentioned Kana Tanaka of Japan as the world's oldest living person at 115. And guess what? She's now 116. And Jyoti, she must be a vegan. Merriam-Webster's word of the year is they. The singular they is a pronoun used to refer to a person whose gender identity is non-binary and was added to the dictionary in September. And according to dictionary.com, their word is existential, which they chose as the word of the year for 2019. It captures a sense of grappling with the survival, literally and figuratively, with our planet, our loved ones, and our ways of life. Existential. And the most popular health-related searches on Google in this order are, this is interesting, the first one was hiccups, the second, opioid addiction, the third, snoring, the fourth, fatigue, and the fifth, keto diet. There you go. Now, the following are notables who left us in 2019. Carol Channing, actress, comedian, 97. Peter Tork, a former monkey at age 77. Luke Perry, 52. Peggy Lipton of Mod Squad fame, she was 72. Doris Day was 97. Tim Conway, 85. Peter Fonda of Easy Rider fame, 79. Gloria Vanderbilt, the poor little rich girl, was 95. Valerie Harper, Mary Tyler Moore's buddy, was 80. Cokie Roberts, newscaster at 75. Diane Carroll, 84. Ross Perot, 89. Lee Iacocca was 94. Bart Starr, Green Bay Packer, 85. And Big Bird, Carol Spinney from Sesame Street. Naturalist Jim Fowler at 89. And Toni Morrison, author and Nobel laureate at 88. And also Grumpy Cat died, he was only 7. And now we're going to honor those who left our church community in 2019. Doris Emerson, beloved wife of Bud Emerson, whom she met in her native Germany, coming to this country as a bride in 1957. Doris was a very long-time member of this church and attended before this church was here at the church in Riverside, along with Bud and their daughters, Jeanette and Pamela. She was affectionately known as Aunt Doris by so many kindergarten children she taught at Happy Acres Ranch, where she was able to express her love for children. And I can surely admire that she had a passion for her yard, for flowers, for birds, and butterflies. Anne Winfrey. Anne and husband Bill moved to Atlantic Beach in 1974, and she later earned her master's degree in library science. After working at the Regency Square Library, she became the children's librarian at the Beaches Library, which opened in 1986, and she remained there until she retired in 99. She is also the former co-chair of the Caring Network and a dedicated Beam volunteer. Always charming, always clever, and gifted with a great sense of humor. Robert Miller, beloved husband of Constance Miller, known for his integrity, his kindness, and his counseling skills. He often officiated at Quaker weddings and memorial ceremonies, melding together all beliefs. Judith Lane, a member of the East Nassau Church, she found her niche doing information technology and had many interesting jobs worldwide, her last one in Washington, D.C. as a senior advisor for strategic planning to executives at the newly created Homeland Security. After retirement to Amelia Island, she continued to use her skills, volunteering with city government, serving on city planning, advisory boards, and other activities. Audrey Wiley, wife of Ray Wiley and a friend of the church for many years. Now, Audrey didn't often attend in later years, but she was a behind-the-scenes person, and she did many, many things to contribute to the health and wealth of this church. And she shared her art in everything she did. And the next one, Justin Franzino, my former husband and father of our children, Chris and Lisa, and a former member of UCJ for many years who shared his musical talents in many church activities. Now, this man was creative, inventive, and artistic, and he was truly a Renaissance man. Chris Cooper, beloved son of Gwen and John Cooper. Chris was a gentle child who loved his family, his friends, and playing D&D. And I assume that's Dungeons and Dragons, right? He grew to truly enjoy broadcasting sports for the Suns and JU as a cameraman, an editor, and a mentor to students. He loved his work in films as an extra, a sound man, director, and playwright, winning Best Script at the Jacksonville Film Festival. He was a kind, giving person and a delightful raconteur. And most recently, Candy Rue's former husband, Neil Rue, who was a very talented photographer. And lastly, Henson Markham, who died on Christmas Eve. Henson was a lover of music. Throughout his life, he expressed it in so many ways. And these floral arrangements are from the memorial service that was held yesterday in his honor. He founded the Good Shepherd Chamber Music Society and was very involved in Friday Musicale. He was a mentor to many young musicians. As part of our community of caring, many of us have reached out to families and friends who are grieving their loss. I want to take this time to give a few hints about how to be there for the grieving person. Know that just calling or showing up makes a difference. We don't call because we don't know what to say. We swear we'll visit, but we just keep putting it off. You might ask, what can I do for you? But the griever may not have the energy to even respond to that question. They don't know. I don't know what you can do for me. A small gesture will be felt and appreciated, even if the grievers can't acknowledge it right away. Your steadiness and presence is the absolute best thing you can do for someone who is grieving. Don't compare griefs. No one else has experienced their grief. Don't ask questions. You can connect by showing curiosity about their experience. Don't give compliments. When someone is in pain, they don't need to be reminded how wonderful they are. Don't be a cheerleader. When things are dark, it's okay to be dark. Do mirror their reality. When they say, this sucks, say, yes, it does. Stay there in the present moment. Or if the person is talking about the past, join them there. Here are some more ideas. Comfort food. People often forget to eat or eat badly. Dropping off a meal is an easy thing to do, and I will never forget the day my mother died. That afternoon, somebody from church showed up with a dozen muffins in their hand. I will never, ever forget that. Photos. Share your photos of the person who died in an online scrapbook or a printed one. It's a beautiful way to memorialize someone, and Carlos did such a beautiful job of when Kathy and Phil died. That's very special to me and all those who are grieving. Time away. For those who work full-time, there's little time to yell at the universe. offer to take the kids or check with your company or see if you can transfer some of your days to the grieving coworker. Show up, listen, and don't fix it. Martha Hickman, in her book Healing After Loss, says grieving is such a roller coaster ride. One day we think the worst is over, that we're beginning to pick up our lives again, and the next day or the next hour, it's as though it was all fresh and we've made no progress at all. We need to remember that recovery from grief is not a smooth uphill path. There will be many setbacks, many side paths onto which we are led before we can continue our journey of sadness. Better not waste our energy castigating ourselves that we are not doing better. We're doing as well as we can, and these setbacks are all part of the process. So let us expect them, accept them when they come, and take a deep breath and move on. Grief is like glitter. You throw a handful up in the air, but when you try to clean it up, you never get it all. Even long after the event, you still find glitter tucked in the corners. It will always be there, somewhere. My nephew Larry Janesky writes a daily blog, and he recently asked this question: is there life after death? A better question is there life before death? The time is now. Do the things you wanted to do. Tell people you love them and you appreciate them. Break the boring routine and get out and do what you want to do before it is too late. Make the most of what we have today. You have to be willing to risk losing in order to do anything worthwhile. And this is a perfect segue to talk about New Year's resolutions. Do you still make them? Do you think about eating healthier, exercising more, perhaps volunteering somewhere? I think in order to stay healthy and fit, both physically and cognitively, you have to do something that scares you a little. This involves continued learning and doing something challenging, sort of like the class I volunteered to teach at the mountain this October for the Aging to Saging retreat. It was intimacy and elderhood. Was I challenged? Yes. Was I scared? Yes. Was I glad I did it? Yes. So set yourself on fire. That project that you're doing or dreading, the chore you've been putting off, that challenge you think you're not quite prepared for, why not embrace it? Instead of just getting through it, why not see if you can do something really cool, really different, and be masterful with it? Even the stuff you've been doing day in and day out for a long time, why not take it to the next level and show your genius through it? Ferdinand Foch said, the most powerful force in the world is the human soul on fire. I would like to share these last words from someone dying of pancreatic cancer at age 56. Do not educate your children to be rich, educate them to be happy. So when they grow up, they will know the value of things, not the price. Eat your food as medicine, otherwise you will eat your medicine as food. Whoever loves you will never leave you, even if they have 100 reasons to give up. They will always find one reason to hold on. There is a big difference between being human and human being. If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. The 6 best doctors in the world are sunlight, rest, exercise, diet, self-confidence, and friends. Keep them in all stages of life and enjoy a healthy life. Love the people God sent to you. One day He'll need them back. When making your New Year's resolutions, I want you to think about what your regrets might be as I read this poignant letter written to Dear Annie, which is a regular column in the Times-Union. Dear Annie, I was a lousy husband, not because of physical or emotional abuse, but because of ignorance. I grew up in a household where I never heard my father tell my mother he loved her. I never heard him give her a compliment or ask her opinion. I treated my wife in the same way. She didn't complain. She came from the same kind of family. She was an angel, and she deserved much better. It wasn't until she passed and I lived alone with time to learn from the media that I understood how ignorant I was and how bad I was to her. I wish I could tell her how much I loved her and that I am truly sorry. It's not hard to say, I love you. Now I want you to, if you have a partner with you, I want you to turn to your partner or say it to the church community on the count of 3. We're going to say it. 1, 2, 3. I love you. Let's do it one more time. I love you. And I am blessed with a beautiful husband who says it to me every day. Thank you, Stuart. For several years, it's been our custom to remember the homeless people of Jacksonville, Florida, who have died this past year. They may have no one to mourn their passing or recognize their death. Their names are listed in the insert of your order of service. And we're going to read the names. I want us all to read them in unison, and I want you to give thought to each name as we read it. We will also light a candle in their memory. Let's begin. LaQuindra Sandifer, Timothy Young, Brian Lawson, Cristino Castro, Robert Bird, James Wise, Heather Miller, Gail Lancaster, David Alexander, Dion Harris, Catherine Jones, Barry Egan Jr., Jennifer Moy, Regina Sirago, Barbara White, Anthony Bivens, Tony Keck, David St. Meyer, Keith Dynoff, Jeff Moore, Paul Levins, Rufus Holly, Winston Bailey, Paul Solomon, Alan Rutherford, Tobias Foster. And now